So yes, I think I've decided that I'm going to be using this journal for my quarantine kind of memory book. And all because as soon as I saw this, I wanted to cut this out and put a little window here. So this will be my title page. And so let's go ahead and do that fun little feature. So I'm going to go ahead and grab this beautiful mat, which is from Aunty Vera Scrap and Craft. Look at this side. Let's work on that side. Let's keep the other girl preserved. It also comes with a matching Santoro blade. Okay, brilliant. I love that already. Okay, so we'll keep this for another time. The next thing I wanted to do, see this gorgeous little thing here. I wanted to grab that. So that one there is the virus. And then this one over here, which says COVID-19. So I wanted to stamp that one in the bigger ones. So let's see how we go here. Now I am going to reach for my archival ink. I obviously don't want to put it on every single one, so I'm just going to open up here. We're going to create some kind of a pattern. So what else would be really cool here? So I'm just going to go into a voiceover mode here and speed up the video because this actually takes a little bit of time. You know, it's lots of prepping and fussing and whatnot. So I'm just having a play here with spacing out the words and all the sentiments. And then I go ahead and start stamping using my archival ink. I'm making sure that no two stamps that are the same are next to each other, and I try to space out the patterns a bit. One thing you have to remember is that the stamps are like brand new photopolymers, so pre-stamp them first, give them a good dab of ink. Also, sometimes you have to rough them up just a little bit, and so I roughed them up on my jeans because they kind of sort of feathered at the start, but if you rough them up, they soon, you know, it whips them into shape basically, and they stamp a whole lot better. Must say that one of my favorite stamps is the virus stamp. I would pay the money just to get the virus stamp for that whole stamp set, and also the hashtag COVID-19. Can't get that anywhere else, so I'm just saying you might want to get yourself one. So yeah, I alternated. There were a few spots left, so I pulled out the unhappy and the happy face. Obviously, there were some aspects of quarantine life that were unhappy, and there were aspects that were happy, having everybody together, you know, getting to stay home and do some of your favorite things that you never have time for. A lot of people have said that there are some great benefits of, you know, spending time with family and spending time at home. So yeah, so good and bad and everything, I think. I was very conscious of making this cover personalized. Like, one of the things that I was a bit, you know, iffy about getting this booklet about is like everybody is going to have this booklet. Like, it's not going to be any different, which is why I decided to stamp on it and then cut out that little interactive page, which you'll see me working on now. I wanted to make this cover specific to me. So although everybody in the world might have this, this one, nobody's is going to look exactly like this. So customizing, you can still customize it even though it's pre-done for you. Okay, so that window now, I loved that COVID-19, but it was too big. Same with that 2020, it's still too big. I don't know what that is, so I didn't like it. I didn't want to put that. That looked too boring. That looked sort of good. I thought maybe that one. I like the idea of putting the two viruses there, but I kind of sort of didn't end up doing that. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw the die cut with the world on it that had a mask on it, and I thought, yes, this is what I need to do. So that straight away I wanted to do that. And then I thought, oh, that COVID-19 that I liked, and the 2020, because this is the year. And I thought, yep, that's what I'm going to do. So straight away, I know I wanted to have those there for my title page. Grabbed a pencil and just made sure I marked where everything was going to go so that that world mask was central in the window. Also marked where the COVID-19 and the 2020 were going to appear. I'm going to have them on the side there. I'm reaching for my Dino Wakley scribble sticks. Now I don't want to put any water on this journal. Pages are thick, but not that thick. So what I was going to do is just use color, but not sopping wet color. So I'm just doing a swatch of colors here with the Dino Wakley scribble sticks. They are gorgeous, and I'm picking colors that match the colors in the 3 elements that I've picked there. I honestly, seriously think that lime and tangerine is the best combination ever. I like that everything matches really nicely. So what I'm going to start doing now is start putting down some of these colors. And so with scribble sticks, go really hard so that you transfer the pigment, and then to make them nice and creamy, instead of adding water, I decided to use acrylic paints. And white acrylic paint, it takes really well. The pages in this booklet take acrylic paint really well. The paper didn't warp. With the wetness of the acrylic paint, and the scribble sticks were creamy. The color transferred really lovely. And basically here I'm just playing. There is nothing, no idea in my head. I'm just adding colors to make a background. So there's that bit there in the middle that I didn't like, which was the harsh edge between the red and the blue. So I tried to tame that. I then decided to just darken the edges here of the die cut. And then I added some double-sided tape plus a little bit of the Aleene's tacky glue for that forever stick, and positioned my world so that you could see it through the little peek hole there. I did also decide to put some ink just there on the window so that there were none of the white, the raw bits from when you cut it through was showing. Okay, so I'm really happy with that. So I decided to start with that top sentiment there. So double-sided tape plus Aleene's tacky glue. I wanted to put that 2020 right there, but I felt like something was missing. So I thought I'd addition a few of the stay positive sentiments. So there was that die cut of a house that said together at home, and I thought that was nice. Nice sentiment, plus it took up the space really well. So I chose that one. I then thought I'd add a little bit of texture in the background. I'm reaching for these Tim Holtz stencils, a little bit of white paint, as well as some of the orange tangerine Dino Wakley paint. I am just going to make a little bit of interest in the background, as they say, to layer your stencils, and add just a little bit of color to your backgrounds to make it more interesting. So I'm kind of choosing areas on the side there to do that. I like how very subtle it is and that it doesn't overpower the background. I end up doing a little bit of artsy here, and I thought I would put some black paint, a little bit of water, and I'm going to tap some of the splatter on. I was a bit chicken at the start, didn't want any of that to go onto my die cuts, but then I thought, hey, it's like a virus. It's everywhere. You don't know where it is, and the world was wearing a mask anyway, so I just took the paper off and it splattered everywhere, and I love how it turned out. So I'm really liking it at this stage, and so I put my elements down. So the little home goes on, and the 2020 goes on. I thought it was missing one more thing. This little coronavirus banner here, kind of, that yellow and black, looked really cool, and so I wanted to put it there on the top of the mask. I like how that looks. It really completes it. So I really should have stopped here, but you know me, they always say, add one more thing, and I felt like it needed some stamping. So I reached for this Bo Bunny doodle stamp set, added some of these circles and some wiggles, and I really should have stopped the layer before. I don't know, maybe this layer doesn't hurt it, but I think it's just way too crowded now. I did add a little bit of orange to the corners. I then thought I would outline everything with just the black all pen, and then I added a little bit of water just to kind of shade it out. I was using a paintbrush at first, and then I wisened up and I decided to use my water paint pen, which has a barrel of water in it. I didn't have to keep grabbing some water with the paintbrush. So I'm just outlining everything now with my watercolor pencil, and then activating it with some of the water, and making sure that it outlines everything nicely. I do end up using one of those stamps along the side there of the home to ground the home a little bit. I felt like the home was sort of floating there. It had nothing around it. It was just all alone. So I did end up using a stamp alongside it so that it grounded the home to the bottom of the page. I flipped to the front and I decided to use my black watercolor pencil and outlined all the little viruses. This cover is a work in progress, I think. So I started adding, activating that watercolor and bringing in some of the shading. I think what I want to do is I want to go back in with like reds and blues and greens to make it so that these cells have, shading in them. So I'll do that as this project continues, and I'll show you how it turns out. After I filmed the title page, I've called this the cover of the book, but I've actually called this the title page of my quarantine memory journal. Now, I was thinking about later on when I come back to look at this journal, I wanted to know, how did all this start? Where did it start in the world? Where did it start in Australia? So I did a little bit of research. This is the epidemiologist in me. This is the researcher in me. This is the scientist in me. I really want to know where it all began. So I did a little bit of research. I went to, this is the Business Insider. This is the US. This is a US site. And I got this complete timeline of the coronavirus pandemic, which I loved all the little bits here. I also went to an Australian site and I got this, so complete, totally, like, I love it. It's very visual. That along with little breakdowns of when borders closed and when the whole thing started with the Ruby Princess here in Australia. That's what brought them all in. And I really wanted to document that. So I downloaded that. I downloaded this. I started cutting these out. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with timeline first before going into my own life under quarantine. I did think of doing this. Perhaps we might do this and then do the point form here, but I quite like this. So I think, I don't mind the bend in the page, and I think if I just did that and then use the points here to write in my own handwriting with the title at the top. So I think that that's what I'm going to do. So to put this timeline in, I'm using double-sided tape, and all I'm doing is folding the page in half and then putting the half of that page into the half of the book so that everything is equal on both sides. And then I'm putting the title at the top, which is the timeline of the coronavirus pandemic. I'm then using my fine tip micron. I think this was a 0.2, and later on I moved to a 0.1. So in the beginning there wasn't much information, so I ended up putting a lot of information down, and as more and more events unfolded, I needed to use a fine tip and just put just the details down. So as I was doing this, I was actually quite interested, just from like a removed point of view of how it all started. And then I had flashbacks of hearing things on the radio and hearing things on the news that hadn't really affected me in January. Things hadn't really come to big personal head at this stage, but just reading it from this point of view is really interesting to see how everything starts and how the authorities were onto it from the very beginning, which is really, really comforting. So later on, I do show pictures of things in my life. So at this stage, I'm trying to get a little bit artsy, and all I do at this stage is just glue in some of the scrapbooking paper that has the virus on it. Okay, so moving now on to February, and I'm going to skip through most of this. You probably don't want to read it, so I'm just going to move on to the arty part. I thought just on the sides there I would do sort of like a stencil border, so I used Love That color Tangerine in the Dina Wakley paint. You guys have to get yourself some. It dries so fast, and you can write and stamp on top of it. So I thought I would alternate between that virus stamp, and once again, love that virus stamp, and then the hashtag COVID-19 stamp as well. And that's all the arty I am doing. I thought I'd go back to that first page and just fill in some of the blank spots at the top. I also had some paint left over, and so I moved over to the cover, and I just wanted to personalize my cover. Like, I think a lot of people will have this cover or this book, and so I just wanted to add as much stuff as I can to it. Okay, so in March, a lot of things happened, so I needed a lot of writing space. I put this down this way on the left-hand side, and I thought it'd be interesting, the Chief Medical Officer, Brendan Murphy, who I'm very pleased with. He said on the 16th of March, no handshaking, no hugging. So I thought that I would put that down as a reminder of, the authorities telling you not to hug. Okay, so moving on to the next one. So at this stage, there were no more printouts, so I decided to make my own, and I made it so that that May and June were both together on the one page, and it would be like a flip out interactive, so that on one page I would have the May timeline written on the left, and then when I flipped over the interactive page I would have the June timeline written on the right, and just had this interactive like calendar. I did use all the daily stamps from the stamp set, and for some of them they were too long, so I would like stamp it on a piece of paper, put Thursday, and then chop off day, so it would be Thurs. And so I'll show you in the pictures. Do check out the blog, because I'll show you how I did it on the blog. I'll take some pictures and put it on the blog. So I did think of leaving the two tabs on the top there, but they were in the way. They're quite annoying, and so I did cut them out. Just going in now and erasing some of the pencil marks, so that looks really good. And then I'm going to start putting in my details for May. Quite a lot here. And also what I decided to do is I grabbed a highlighter and I went back and I just highlighted some of the dates so that they stand out. Now I thought it was really interesting in May. Jacinta Ardern had this quote that said, "No one wants a second wave, no one." And then ScoMo came up with, "Outbreaks are not a reason to slow things down." And I think that was just a result of how hard the economy had been hit and the pressure that he was under to open things back up. So everyone was talking in May about the second wave, and everyone was talking about opening things up and how hard the economy had been hit. So I thought I'd put some of those really interesting quotes down. Now for June, I'm leaving June till later on, because I'm doing this in the beginning of June. Not much stuff has happened yet, and so I'm going to leave it and do it later on. And so art-wise, all I'm doing is I use the stencil at the top to add some of the turquoise color, and then I'm coming in with a white Posca pen, and I'm adding just a little bit of doodling just to break up that blue, and then again just adding some lines here on the May calendar, and then doing some lines, some more doodling and hashtag, so it looks a little bit arty. And so there we go. That's the mad scientist part in me. I got my fix there. Now it's time to get into some crafting, some of the die cuts and the cut aparts.